this video we're just going to talk about the toolbar. So over here on this side, the first two options we have what's called a selection tool, which is the coloured in little arrow, and we have the direct selection tool underneath it, which is the one that's not coloured in. So the difference between them, if I just draw a shape here, I can show you. The difference between them is the direct selection tool will let you select the shape as a whole and just sort of move it around. Okay, you can click off and then back on and it will move around. The direct selection tool will only work if you click off of it first. So I'll just show you that again. So if you're in, I'll just get a bit closer. If you're in, you can see the corners here, they're white. If I click off, if I click the direct selection tool while it's selected, they'll go blue and I can't do anything. So I need to click off, then back onto a point, and then I can move just that one point and it will let me move those to whatever shape I want, kind of like that. So that is our selection tool and our direct selection tool, so it's the difference. So if you're finding it's moving one part instead of the whole shape, you're probably in direct selection tool. People make this mistake all the time. So the next important one is our type tool down here. So this one brings us to this little triangle here. Any of these tools that have a little triangle here, if you click and hold, you'll get other options for it. So we've got type tool and we've also got type and a path tool here. So with type tool, you just create a box so you can later resize if you need to, and you just start typing. You can also copy and paste in from Word in there. There's all sorts of different things in there. So once we've got this, we're then going to go from our tool panel up to our control panel. So our control panel up here, remember in the first video I said that the control panel allows us to change and manipulate the tools. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to highlight this part here. I can then change my font up here, so this one. And then I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I want that to be straight out like that. This one's only got regular, so you'll find if I go something like Arial, it'll allow me to have other options. The reason that is because Microsoft Word, the reason that you can italicize anything in Microsoft Word is because they're willing to pay for the continuous court cases based around fonts. So people are consistently suing Microsoft because their font is not supposed to be italicized, and Microsoft doesn't care, so they just do it anyway, and then they just pay the court cases to be able to allow people to do it. So Adobe doesn't do that. Adobe uses things the way that they're supposed to be used, so quite often you'll find that your fonts, you're not allowed to italicize or anything like that. All of the ones with the little arrow down the side here, you can change them. So if I click there, you'll be able to see I can do a bunch of different stuff with that, and it's got the examples of what that looks like next to it. That one was a really good one actually. So there's all different stuff in there for you to look at. So that's the first thing. Then we've got the font size, so I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller in there. This one is going to give me the distance between the two. So if I go like that, it's going to move that down. So it's the distance between the two when there is a gap. This will change them all to caps. It will change them to the little letter up there. You can have all of them on, sort of thing. You know, some of them will get rid of others, but so strike through, underline, they're little down. This is small caps. So you can sort of muck around with those. This one will change the height of the font. And you'll find times where you want to do that. This one will change the width. And this one will put like a little slant on it. So you kind of can italicize it, but it's not really the same thing. Like it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look as nice. This one over here is color, so you can change the color of your text there. This one here is the color of the stroke. So something really important with any Adobe product is that unlike on Word where you just have the color of the font, you have a stroke color and you have a fill color. So they're called a fill and a stroke. The stroke is like a border of everything, so any object or word or anything at all, they all have a stroke and they all have a fill. So sometimes you want a fill and no stroke, sometimes you want a stroke and no fill, sometimes you want neither. Oftentimes we just want a stroke. So you need to be aware of that. You can't just change it to white because it will use that white. You need to go none. So if you don't want one, you need to say none, and it will just completely take it away. So you can see the difference there when I put that stroke in there. If I changed it to blue, you can see it there again. I think it looked way better black. So I'm going to go back to that. So that's the fill and the stroke. These are seen down here as well in our tool panel. So yeah, then there's, making it all sort of central. It's only going to do the line, like it did that because it was the line that it was on. Oh god, I don't want blue, I want black. And then that's the whole thing. So that is text, just there. So we then have a pen tool. So our pen tool allows us to draw on it, so that has options as well in there, which we'll come back to in a moment. So this one, if you just click, you'll get lots of straight lines like this. If you click and drag, you'll get a bent line like that. And that takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but you'll get there eventually. So that's our pen tool. I would suggest that if you're going to draw your own shapes that you would use the pen tool, not the line tool. The line tool is the one above it. The line tool, there's a lot less you can do with it later on. So I would always draw with the pen tool rather than the line tool. With the pen tool, you'll always have another line, see that, just coming out of somewhere until you close that up. So once you have finished, see that little circle that comes up on my little mouse. I'll show you again. So it's got nothing there now. It's got a little triangle, and then if I hover over this one, it's a circle. So it's going to close that circuit, and then after that I can start a new one. You see that? That's going to tell me that it's a closed shape. So I can select this guy over here and we can put a fill in it and see what the shape actually is. So that's kind of where it's at with that one. So that's the pen tool. I'm just going to delete that now because that looks terrible. Okay. Pencil allows you to draw sort of freely like that if you need to for some reason. This one is a place filler. So if you're working for a company or you're doing something for the school and you don't have the photos yet, you'd put in these place fillers. So you would go, I want a photo in there, and it's going to just hold that place for your photo. So we know that there's something that's going in there. This one here underneath is the shape tool. So rectangle, again, we have a stroke and we have a fill. So if I jump off that, you'll be able to see that. You can make the stroke thicker in this one. So you've got that. You can also change it to sort of dots like this. You could have something like that. You've got other shapes in there as well. So you've got the ellipse tool. And you've got a polygon tool. So with the polygon tool, you can choose a number of sides. So I could go 10, and I want it to be like that, and it's going to create that for me. Yeah. You can also go with the star inset here, and it's going to make it go the opposite direction. So if I go 40, it's going to give me a star like that. So you can muck around with that one if you want to. You can also make exact shapes. So if I go to the ellipse tool, I click once, I want it to have, you know, I want it to be an exact circle. I go 40 by 40 and it will give me that 40 by 40. Okay. You will notice none of these shapes here have a stroke or a fill. So I'm just going to press Shift W and it's going to give me what we call portfolio mode. So this is what your document would look like if you printed it currently. So you've got very little on there at the moment. So just keep in mind that those blue lines aren't actually your shape having a fill. So we'll see the difference now. You can actually see that star in there.